My name is Dr. Gulnar Ali, and today we are going to talk about self care and healing. My professional background is in healthcare and higher education. In a minute, I will explain it to you what I mean by existential health, self care, and healing. First, it is very important to establish that when we say health, it does not necessarily mean physical care aspects only, a body without any disease conditions or pathology or any sort of disabilities. But when we say health and well being, it is very much connected in terms of healthy mindset. How do we regulate our emotions? How do we cope in stressful situations? Do we um, do we appreciate our life? Are we aware of our belief patterns? How do we interact with others? Are we happy when we are by ourselves or when people are around us? Can we sleep well? Can we enjoy food? Or do we often feel lonely or sad about any loss? It could be any material loss, or it could be an emotional loss where we have lost our loved ones and we are still grieving. We are still reliving the pain every moment. So, all these things are self care aspects that impact on our meaning making attitude towards life. And that is existential health. And that is something we are going to talk about today. Because these are very important concepts to promote our well being. Today, every 4 seconds, somewhere, regardless of their age, people end their lives because they can't find meaning. They feel life is full of difficulties and burden and pain. Due to COVID pandemic, maybe things have been aggravated more for some of us. But then how we can still be alive and happy and be proud of whatever life has offered to us, that comes under self-care needs, and that's why we are talking about these things today. Understanding our self-care needs can make us more empowered to make wise choices that can allow us to be our own selves. Otherwise, we may end up in having sleepless nights because of any past trauma or any constant thought of worries and anxieties. Either we are thinking too much about past, broken relationships, or we are constantly worrying about future, fear, self-doubts, or maybe we are in any sort of abusive relationships, or we are not happy in terms of our job, our roles, our careers. So that emptiness could be of any sort in terms of our social roles or the place in our society. But if we are keeping those things unaddressed, it could lead to so many psychosocial or sexual health issues. It may end up in having extramarital affairs, infidelity, abuse, aggression, substance misuse, or even sexual health problems altogether. So, when we say existential health and self care, it's important to see that what is the composition of our thoughts. What is my thought pattern? What do I feel? How do I feel? And whether I am comfortable being myself. So the first question we can ask ourselves is, who am I? Socrates used to ask this, and this method of inquiry is very much used here today in psychology when we do counseling. We do these inquiry methods to investigate and to embrace our own existence. Who am I? Aristotle used to ask, what is the ultimate purpose of my existence? And maybe we all are thinking, or we may have thought these kind of similar existential questions before, or maybe we are still struggling to find answers because these are big questions. And people have spent their lives to search the meaning of life in that quest. And that's why we belong to a faith tradition. We find these answers maybe through meditation, or we go in metaphysical inquiries like Ibn Sina, Ibn Rushd, and so many other Muslim philosophers have done. So there are so many ways to investigate our existence, maybe through practicing faith, by inquiring, reflecting on universe, engaging in literature, art, poetry, architect, and there could be so many ways through mindful practices, through meditation, whatever creativity we can do by reflecting on one simple question: who am I? And what it means to be myself. Rumi has beautifully said, let the water settle and you will see stars and moon mirrored in your being. So he has used the metaphor of water, that how in a still water we can see the entire sky can be reflected. So we can see the reality, we can embrace the truth once we have peace and harmony within. Now that requires some kind of self-discipline in terms of understanding what is our thought content. How do we think, what do we think, and how it impacts on our feelings. So that is very much the power of our attention. Where is our attention? Our thoughts are expressed in words, in language, whether we are talking about text, written expressions, or we are talking about body language, or we are talking about any language as an expression of our thoughts. And how thoughts are conditioned by our beliefs. And how our beliefs are conditioned, again, we need to investigate all these things. That my language, whether I'm writing, speaking, dancing, whatever is my way to communicate and to express myself in connection with others, my language is very much conditioned by my thoughts. And if the way I feel, the way I behave, the way I interact is very much controlled by my thought patterns, then I need to see that how I can improve my thoughts. My thoughts and my feelings impact on my well-being. So how can I take charge of my cognitive activities, of my feelings, my emotion patterns, how I can be more empowered in that regard by focusing on my attention. So one way could be doing some mindful practices, whether it's mindful eating, mindful walking. There are so many sessions and webinars available now, how we can practice, even having some small sips of water, or maybe just walking freely and thoughtfully breathing and allowing yourself to be in present moment, not worrying too much about past or worrying excessively or feeling anxiety about future. Rather, whether we can engage in poetry or drawing or meditation by calling the names of Allah, if we are practicing meditation, or if we are invoking zikr in any sort, how that presence could be embraced, how we can fill our heart, our mind, our thoughts with the grace by just allowing it to happen, going timeless. So one very important notion of time is presented in Quran as a zaman, or the other impression is al-asr. So a zaman is very much confined in terms of age and specific time, past, present, zaman. But when we say al-asr, it is timeless. And if it's timeless, it also reminds us the power of al-hayy, ever presence, ever permanent. And there are so many other beautiful names, Asma Husna, where we can engage and allow ourselves not to enchant or to invoke that zikr as an object or as a text of the language itself. Rather, allowing ourselves by working on our attention and making those tasbihat or those zikr as experiences, lived experiences. So not just saying Ar-Rahman, not just saying Al-Qayyum, not just saying Ar-Rahim, rather feeling the Rahmah within. Every breath we are taking and we are saying, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Az-Zahir, Al-Hayy. So by saying all these Asma Husna, we are also disciplining, we are also regulating our thought patterns, our emotions, and by working on that given name of Allah, we are trying to embrace the power. We are not forcing our attention to think about those words, rather breathing. Like Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah in his memoirs, he has said that we live, move, and have our being in God, and God sustains us always and everywhere. But how do we feel connected within, and whether we allow that barakah to embrace us, that is something we can do about. And that requires openness, that requires a sense of submission and supplication. And for that openness, we can remember the hadith. Prophet Muhammad has beautifully taught us 3 things to be remembered. Ta'ati man haramuka, wa tusalli man kataka, wa ta'fu amman zalamaka. So 3 things: to give means ta'ati, ta'fu to forgive, and tusalli to connect. So whether they were past traumas, whether there were disappointments, whether there were broken relationships or other disappointments, but the only thing we can do about is to work on ourselves by forgiving, by letting go, and then by connecting within. And that can happen when we offer a sense of gratitude. That can happen when we can be honest about our own limitations. Rather keeping that hurt within, it's very important to deal with that hurt. Forgiving ourselves, offering self-compassion to ourselves, and then taking charge to heal within.